maybe I'm saying welcome back. Or welcome back. This month's topic for the Vanother Collective is our 3 favourite meals. We haven't got 3 favourite meals. We just make whatever we fancy at the time. So we're going to make you 3 amazingly simple things that you probably think you couldn't really do in the van. We've got an English classic, a Spanish specialty, and we're going to do a bit of batch cooking so that when you're out on your big hike, paddleboarding adventure, whatever you fancy, could just be wandering around the shops, you know, but whatever you fancy, you can come back and there's already a meal ready to go. Don't forget to check out the other people in the Vanother Collective playlist. Give them a like, give them a subscribe. I shall ping their little picture-y thingies, what do they call them? Icon-y thingies up here in this big empty space where my fingers aren't anymore because they're now covered in some sort of icon. But we'll put their icons, badges, logos, avatars, I don't know what they are anymore. We'll put them up there and we'll see you soon. It's Sunday, and being Sunday, it would be 1,000,000% remiss of me not to be English at this point and say we are going to have Sunday roast. So what we're going to do today is we are going to do a marinated shoulder of pork roasted on the cob. Stick with us and we will try and talk you through what we're up to. It's quite straightforward. We've got some of this stuff. This is good old fashioned fresh rosemary. We've got loads of it growing outside, so we've been and picked some. You can buy it in a packet from the supermarket ovs. We've got some of my favourite thing in the world, garlic, like that in most things. Not much you can't put that in. We've also got some anchovies. We've got tinned ones, but yeah, they've got a bit of oil in, so we'll use that oil instead of using some olive oil, because these are already in olive oil, but that'll give us a bit more fishy texture, give it a bit more. And then we've got some good old-fashioned mustard. I'm just going to do some chopping, and then we'll do some slavering and some marinating, and then we'll stick it back in the fridge, anywhere between 2 and 24 hours. Ours is going to be in there for about 5 or 6, and then we will get the cob all lit up and we will get it roasting and we will pull you off Sunday roast in a caravan. Using caravan oven, we will have roast parsnips, Yorkshire puddings, we've got some fresh greens. I'm pretty sure it says a couple of cloves in there, but let's be honest, let's have a bit more. Garlic's good for you. So it's just going to be a choppy exercise. We're literally just going to peel these off like this, chuck them in the pile, and we're going to just bash it all up. You could, if you weren't in a van, you could obviously have a food processor. It's one thing we haven't got in the van. I have seen some little 12-volt USB ones on Amazon, which we might invest in as time goes on, but yeah, let's just do some chopping with a knife. So we're back to our marinade. We've got our garlic, we've got our anchovies, we've got our big pile of herbs. Over here we've got some mustard. We're just going to chop this up, chop those up, mix it all together in a bowl. Not sure we needed a picture of an empty bowl. Okay, we have a picture of a full bowl in a minute, but that should do us for a minute, I reckon. We'll just do some chopping, see you on the other side. So basically that is just all on the board: herbs, garlic, anchovies. Arguably, if you actually Google the recipe for this, it probably tells you to use a couple of anchovies, but what else am I going to do with a good tin of anchovies? And actually, it's just going to make it rich. If you think about it, your Worcester sauce, your Hendo's relish, I'm sure others are available, but they all contain loads of anchovies. So anchovies is obviously good, and obviously please take notes of my chopping technique, as I've made many times in the past. Not remotely trained chef, learned to cook watching the telly. Definitely a ready steady cook generation, so never watch my techniques. Obviously I'm reasonably safe because obviously all my fingers are away from the blade, but technique wise absolutely atrocious, I'm sure. Nice meaty paste, and it is just a lot of chopping because we aren't food processing it. Obviously if you put this in a whizzy blitzer thing, it would be done in seconds. but we haven't got one of those. So we also kept the oil, because we need a couple of tablespoons of olive oil, so we kept the oil from the anchovies. So we're just going to mix it all back in a minute. We're going to give it another chop through just to make sure it's all chopped up. But we'll then mix it back through, and then we'll come back when we've got the bit of meat out and we've given that a bit of love and attention. See you in a sec. So back, a couple of tablespoons of mustard and a big screw of obviously Himalayan salt because we're healthy, and then a massive twist of pepper, and then we'll start preparing the meat. So this is our paste, a lot of oil, a lot of garlic, lots of fresh herbs in there, and we are just going to pretty much paint it on our piece of meat. So I'm going to grab the piece of meat. We'll obviously, sounds crazy, but we'll take it out. We'll pat the meat dry to make sure there's no excess moisture on it. We will then sort of get it prepped and get this all over it, ready to marinate. So we're putting it on the cob. We've actually bodged this. See, we've actually got one of these chuck away tin foil containers. We've got a nice lump of shoulder of pork, and we're just going to give it a bit of a dry and a bit of a marinade, and then we'll get it cooking later. So we're just working this into the meat. Obviously this is where all the flavour will come from. The other side's got a lovely bit of fat on it, so we will utilise the fat in a minute. We'll give it some big slashes into it, and we'll get some more of this worked into it. But this is our flavour. This is our garlic and rosemary mustardy dressing ready for our pork. So it's going to sit in here for between 2 and 24 hours. We're probably going to go for 4 or 5 because obviously we're going to doing it in the morning here, and we're going to have this for tea. But yeah, so that is side one. I'm now going to give it a turn over, give it a few slashes in the fat, and do the same on the other side. So that will then penetrate deeper into the meat. So if you sort of just give them an open up there, look. Obviously my knife skills are pretty poor, and that's a nice distance of slash in there. We're not penetrated through the fat layer because we actually want the fat layer to sort of crisp up a bit as well. But there we go, we're marinated. We'll be going on the cob later this evening, which we will get fired up. And there we go, we have our ultimate, and it is the ultimate roast pork recipe. So I suppose this is the reveal moment. We are going to lift this up. We have got roasted pork, marinade chunking away there in the cob, and we're going to take it out, give it a wrap, let it rest, and then we'll do some carving in a bit. The pork is out. The pork is about ready to go in for its resting. I'll give it a wrap up in some tin foil just to keep the heat in, but we should be all good. I'm looking forward to this. This is the thing I most hate about meat. I hate carving meat, because you see these people like the carveries and things, and they make it look so easy, don't they? They make the perfect slices, but I just never do it. I almost wondered perhaps if I had an electric carving knife I could do it, but I've got a nice sharp knife here, and it just, yeah, it's reasonable, but there are no slices. But look at the gorgeousness. It stayed nice and juicy. It's not dried out. That is a nice joint of pork.
That's enough cutting.
Oh, is it? Oh, sorry.
Well, it's only 2 of us eating, so that's enough cutting.
Apparently that's enough meat for 2. Just in case anybody's wondering. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing with the other lump here. That, you know, it's like 3/4 of the bit of meat we had, but
there's a dog on the floor.
Oh, okay, the dog's eating well rather than me and Dee. But hey ho, such is life.
Looking forward to it.
What's up is down, what's left is right.
So we are back in the van. Right, we're doing our 3 favourite meals. This one is very special. This one is, we're going to make a paella. So what we've got here, we've got some belly pork that we're chopping up, nice and fatty. Fat is always handy. Fat is always good when you're cooking paella because you want that fat to render down. We've got a few piles of chicken wings over there, and next up we are just going to chop an onion because that's the basic start. We'll fry off our belly pork and our chicken wings, and then we'll remove those, collecting the juice while they rest, and then we shall start the rest. The onions, the paprika, the saffron, yada yada. I am not, I repeat, not, never have been, never will be, a chef of any description, but I like my food. I actually enjoy cooking. I'm of the generation that grew up watching Ready Steady Cook going, red pepper. Oh no, that'd be red tomato, green pepper. That'd be the one. Every day. Yeah, that's how I learned to cook. I learned to cook watching TV chefs. So I probably can't even rustle together anything simple, but I can make something look impressive. So we've peeled our onion. We're now going to chop it up. We're going to make this into a little thin dots, because that'll give us a nice bit of caramelisation whilst we cook it. And we're on a winner. It's going to be, I like paella. It's very simplistic. It's not very authentic. Let's be honest. A proper Valencian paella is cooked over a bit of a wood fire. We've been to a paella festival. If you ever scoot through the old videos, you'll find one where we were in a proper Valencian town. We saw the proper wood-fired pizzas. We saw the wood-fired paella. We sat around the fire. They lit fireworks in the street. All cooked on basically a pallet wood bonfire. It's all a bit of fun. But yeah, so we've got an onion. We're going to find ourselves a bulb of garlic and quickly peel it before I smash it with the back of my knife. I grew up on Jamie's 15-minute meals. Therefore, lazy is the way forward. You boil your kettle before you start. If you can get away with it, don't peel your garlic. If you have to peel it, you lazily chop both ends off, pick it up with both ends chopped off, and you unpeel it. Garlic's done. Everyone's a winner. It's the only way forward. Catch you when we get to the canner, where we're going to start actually cooking. Cooking is the next step. So that's a bit of olive oil warming up gently. There is no skill to this. We've splashed it in, we've given it a squizzy wizzy round because we need it to cover the whole. As you'll see, actually, we are kind of ready to go. I've got down here, I've got some belly pork chopped up, I've got some chicken wings, and we're going to get them frying for you guys. We're going to show you how we make paella. It isn't authentic, as I've said before, but it's the way we do it. Rightly or wrongly, in my world, this has to be belly pork. It has to be as fatty as they come, because we want fat to render out. We want some caramelisation, we want some juice, we want to enjoy that fat. The olive oil's there literally to stop us sticking, and then we are good to go. We've been brownning the meat under the lid here for the last couple of minutes, so hopefully when we lift this off, we should have some chicken that's starting to colour. We should have some pork that is rendering its fat out, because we want all that goodness of that caramelisation that is starting there is good, because that is going to be our flavour. That is what is going to make our paella, or paella, however you want to say it, taste amazing. So all of this is now going to come off, and it's going to rest whilst we do our onions, our garlic, we start our rice off. I'm going to get the chicken a bit more colour, because there's not quite enough colour on the chicken for me, but yeah, I'm quite happy with that. That's not a bad start to a perfect meal. Cooking with Paul is a good show, isn't it?
This is a very good fat.
This is what's rendered out of all this. This is what's rendered out of the pork and the chicken. That is good fat. That has got our flavour in. That is important. We've now got our onions and our garlic, which are going to go on there, and we're going to colour them. We're going to try and get a bit of colour going here, because we want a bit of caramelisation. We don't want it to be anemic. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to go and find ourselves some smoked paprika and a tiny pinch of saffron, because remembering we are poor. My beautiful assistant here has brought me the smoked paprika. She's going to get a good shake, because I quite like it spicy, so let's get a good shake. As you can see, they've taken on a positive colour. There's almost a bit of caramelisation. So I'm going to send her back inside now as well, because she's going to go and grab my rice, and then we'll get that all covered up and cooking in. And we are on fire. So we sent Michele in, who's our assistant. She has actually had a glass of the wine we're going to use, which may be what is slowing her down with the rice, because we've now been probably a good minute going inside and cutting open the packet of rice with a pair of scissors. I don't know, it's not that complicated, but hey, it seems to be taking a while. She has actually flicked the kettle on for me and is making me the stock, but I still don't have the rice. About a third of the packet. It reckons 150 grams for 2 people, but is this a decadent paella? So we've gone nearer 225 because we're not good at the measuring. I can't be bothered to get the scales out. It's paella. Paella, however you want to say that. I think we'll stick with paella because it sounds way more cool, but we need to give that a minute or so now just to toast the rice off. And once the rice is toasted off, we shall start adding our stock. First off, once we've got a bit of colour on the rice, we are going to chuck in, it says a glass of wine in the recipe, but yeah, big glug of wine, because that's where our flavours come from. The wine, the stock, the onions, the saffron, the paprika, that's our flavour. So let's not skimp on it. If it takes a little bit longer to cook, it takes a little bit longer to cook. There's no panic. Let's give it a good glug in there. All that now, see that deglazing the pan nicely. I just need to grab a stick and do some stirring. Oh look, there's my assistant. We haven't deglazed the pan beautifully. And then probably give us a glug of just chicken stock. It's nothing more flash than chicken stock. Just enough to get all the rice coated and absorbing the flavour. We introduce our meat. We've introduced some extra stock. And we're going to pop the lid on and let it cook, let the rice swell. Once the rice is swelled, we'll start thinking about introducing a bit more stock as we go. We've got a litre to get in there and let the rice absorb. It's kind of absorption method rice. And then once we're nearing the end, we will add our seafood. We've got some prawns and
squid rings, mussels, and also green beans.
Could have some vegetables in there somewhere. So we've got some green beans, we've got some prawns,
mussels,
and a few squid rings. Yeah, it's quite a decadent meal, but it's all good. So next up, we've been and we've had a grab of our plant. We've found some thyme, so we're going to chuck some thyme in, and then we're going to go and grab some salt and pepper, good season, and then we're going to take our lid off and we're going to let it cook for the next 15-20 minutes until it's really absorbed all that liquid. As it absorbs it, we will chuck some extra in till we're down through the whole litre. So after it's had a couple of minutes to start evaporating away the liquid, we're going to now add a can of chopped tomatoes. We're then going to leave it to cook for the rest of our 15 minutes. That 15 minutes is quite important. That's pretty much the time it's going to take to absorb all the moisture into the rice. And that's pretty much what this whole method is about. Michele is adding our can of chopped tomatoes. It's just a standard tin from the supermarket. Nothing flash, nothing fancy. If you could find some nice Spanish pulpo, then yeah, brilliant. But we are in the UK, so it's not likely to happen. It's just, it's not a possibility really, is it? And we're always ambitious, but it's just not going to happen. Then once you've given it a stir, let it cook away for the rest of our 15 minutes. So next up, we sprinkle through a few green beans just to give it a bit of colour, because obviously otherwise it's going to look a bit red and a bit red. And we're going to chuck our seafood in a minute. What we've done here is we've left it uncovered for the last 15 minutes, in which time the rice has started to absorb all that moisture. Obviously the tomatoes have juiced up nicely, giving everything a good bit of colour. And then we're going to chuck our seafood in. We're going to leave it covered over for about 5 minutes, and then we will serve. Now, if you can't think of a less complicated meal than this, I know it's going to look spectacular. You know, it looks like you're decadent, it looks like you spent hours cooking, but actually, what have we spent? Half an hour? Half an hour of pushing things round a pan, in all honesty. There's not a lot of chopping, there's not a lot of prep, and we have made a show-stopping centerpiece of a meal. Now, you can go loads of varieties, loads of variations, but this is a simplistic classic that you can walk into any UK supermarket, grab the ingredients and cook. When she lifts the lid, it is spectacular. Okay, I think you'll agree, yeah, that's not a bad meal that you can press up on a campsite without too much effort. We haven't spent hours making this, 15-20 minutes, a bit of chopping, but that's about it. Other than that looks quite good. We'll see how it is in the eating. Any good?
Beautiful.
We
Lovely.
could do the table though, couldn't we, really? Let's be
Do
fair.
the table, yeah.
Rather than eating off your lap.
Oh, we are camping.
So what you making today then, love?
I'm batch cooking today because we're back to work tomorrow. So I'm making a bolognese and also using it to make a chilli. So just cutting up the onions, cut up the garlic. Hopefully don't cut my fingers off.
Don't cut your fingers off. Don't fancy cutting fingers off.
Right. So we've got onions and garlic. We're going to add mushrooms into it, cook it all down, add the mince, and once the bolognese is made, we're going to separate it and then make the chilli. So oil in the pan, warming up, and then we're going to add the onions and the garlic that I've chopped up.
Subscribe to the Rachel Koo theory of walk on, oil in then. Well, I do. Otherwise you just end up with oily food.
Well, it does say that you shouldn't put garlic into hot oil, so I normally put mine straight into cold.
It also says you shouldn't really add garlic to the end of any recipe.
No, I know.
Because you get rid of all the flavour.
It's going in now.
But hey, this is your recipe, your version
It's my version.
of a classic. It's not much sizzling.
No, I know. It'll sizzle in a minute.
They'll be sizzling soon.
Using up all the old food we've got in our fridge.
So this is a good meal for at the end of your holiday as we're doing campsite cooking, because you can use up all the old bits and pieces, bobs and bits, different shapes and sizes mushrooms.
They'll mush down. I like the word mush.
Obviously, everyone will note we are using the high quality Tefal Ingenio saucepans with detachable handles.
Please
Brilliant
note though,
idea.
don't get them too close to the heat. I burnt mine.
And also treat yourself to the induction version, because the other version is about half the weight, but also that's where all the quality has gone. The induction version is nice and heavy and really, really good quality.
So I've added the mushrooms in now because I want them to go down as much as they can. What we do when we buy our meat is that we break it down so we don't have a huge amount of meat going in. We have probably approximately about 400 grams going in. Susie salt and some Percy pepper out. Oh, what was that from? Ready, Steady, Cook. Ainsley, wasn't it? Plenty of pepper.
And I guess a good twist of salt, because that's going to draw out the moisture out your mushrooms.
But I don't want to over salt because obviously we're going to put a stock cube in which does have salt in it. Otherwise it'll be a very salty meal. Now just taking the mushrooms, onions and garlic out of the frying pan because I now want to brown my meat off. So like I say, it's probably about 400 grams of meat in here. Normally we'd only use one packet, but because I'm double cooking, we're going for two. And I'm just going to brown this off. And we use 5% fat content to be a bit healthier. I'm going to add the onions, garlic and mushrooms back into it. Give it a bit of a stir. And we're going to be a bit decadent because we've got a bottle of red wine open, so I'm going to add a big glug.
That's a precision measurement, isn't it?
Glug.
Glug.
I'm going to let that cook off. Because obviously we want the flavour and not really the alcohol. It sounds like I know what I'm doing.
You've made this before.
I've made it before, I've never talked about it. I just chuck it together.
Now you're chucking it together whilst someone points a camera in your face. Not remotely dissimilar.
No. So we're going to have some tomato puree. Lots of. we're going to add in some Henderson's relish, which is good for all meals. Gives it a bit of depth. Now let that cook through, and then we're going to add a tin of tomatoes, and then that is the basis of the bolognese. And what we'll do is it will get separated out, and then the chilli variant will be made. So, opening my tin of chunky chopped tomatoes. We don't like, or rather Paul doesn't like any of his bologneses or chilies to be too runny, so I try and not add any extra liquid if I can help it.
It's about flavour rather than liquid, isn't it?
It is. So that is the chunky chopped tomatoes gone in. I'm going to let that cook down for a little while, and then I will take half out, put into a frying pan, and I will make the chilli up. See you in a bit. I've gone and split it now, so the one in the frying pan will be for tonight's tea, and I'm going to make this into a chilli.
So now with batch cooking like this, you could always just freeze these down for a day when you're busy, when you're out and about and doing stuff, couldn't you?
You could. I am now tentatively de-seeding my chilies, because these have been in the fridge for a while and they're a bit shriveled, so I'm trying to take the seeds out as much as I can. They're little buggers. In with that one.
Do you not like chilies on your fingers?
No, because I always end up scratching my nose or scratching my eye. So we are trying to get as many of the seeds out. So do I go for the big one or the little red one?
Well, typical with chilies, smaller usually means hotter.
Right, so we're going to go with the big one. We'll try and, I've got no choice, I'm going to have to put my fingers in there. So that's the chilies chopped up. I'm going to put this back on to reheat. Sugar. That was warmer than I thought.
Use a
Cloth.
or oven glove for moving hot pans.
That's tonight's tea.
Or alternatively, seeing as our pans have clip-on handles, we could have just unclipped one handle and put it on the other pan.
We could have done, but we didn't. So, chilies going in. And I'm also going to add some Spanish pimentum. Gone together. I have kidney beans in a chili sauce. I'm just going to let the chilies amalgamate in with my other ingredients. And then finally, the red kidney beans in the chili sauce, which means I haven't got to try and make any more sauce. And all we'll need to do then is just test it to see how hot it is, whether it needs anything else in it. So there you go. 2 meals in one.
The sky on your mind.